There is a $2 combination sitting in your kitchen right now. It kills active mold colonies on contact and destroys the root structure underneath. It prevents regrowth completely for weeks after a single application. Independent researchers confirmed it eliminates the majority of common household mold species found inside residential buildings. And it has quietly disappeared from every major cleaning product conversation. Not because it ever stopped working, because it worked too reliably and too cheaply to be sold at a profit. A solution this simple cannot support a $25 bottle on a store shelf. A fix this accessible cannot bring the same customer back the following month. What cannot be owned cannot generate recurring revenue. What cannot generate recurring revenue gets buried from public awareness permanently. This is the story of the $2 mold killer that a $2 billion cleaning industry has spent decades making sure you would never rediscover on your own. Now, 45 million buildings across the United States currently have unhealthy mold levels growing inside their walls, according to research published in the journal Indoor Air in 2017 by Mudari and Fisk. Those same researchers found that 21% of every diagnosed asthma case in America traces directly back to mold and dampness exposure occurring inside residential homes. Not seasonal allergies, not temporary sensitivity, real asthma, the kind that sends children to hospital emergency rooms year after year. The CDC and the World Health Organization both confirm the same conclusion independently. Living inside a building with active mold measurably increases your risk of developing respiratory disease. Those are the exact words they used in published documentation. And yet the real answer has been available in your kitchen for generations before any commercial cleaning product ever existed. Let us go back to where this story actually begins. Not in a laboratory, not inside a corporate research facility. In the kitchens and cellars of ordinary families who lived in damp climates and could not afford to lose a harvest to mold destroying their stored food. Before any synthetic chemistry existed for household cleaning, families across coastal England, rural France, and the Appalachian Highlands of America documented the same discovery independently. Salt draws moisture aggressively from any surface it contacts. Lemon juice delivers concentrated citric acid directly into the cellular wall of fungal organisms. Combined together and applied correctly, they created conditions that made mold survival physically impossible on treated surfaces. The knowledge passed through families the way all practical survival knowledge once moved, from parent to child across generations. Written into household journals, discussed in church records, noted in agricultural diaries alongside crop rotations and food preservation methods. It required nothing patented and nothing sold. It required only what every household already kept in their pantry year-round. Church records in rural Somerset from the 1840s describe washing cellar walls with salt water and lemon rinds as standard seasonal practice before winter food storage. Appalachian household journals from the 1880s document women applying salt and citrus preparations to wooden beams and stone cellar floors to control mold growth before cold months arrived. The practice appears across cultures separated by oceans because the biology that drives it is universal. Mold cannot tolerate the environment that salt and lemon juice create together. That is not folk superstition. That is basic fungal biology that no commercial advertising campaign could ever actually disprove. By 1950, the American cleaning product industry had consolidated around synthetic chemistry as its foundation. Bleach became the universal default answer for every household cleaning problem. Major corporations invested enormous resources in shelf presence, television advertising, and regulatory positioning. The message delivered to every American household was simple and consistent. Only laboratory chemicals are powerful enough to protect your family. Your grandmother's methods are primitive and unreliable. Trust the product. Trust the label. And across 2 full generations, the knowledge quietly disappeared. Not because it had stopped working, because it had stopped being taught to anyone who could pass it forward. So what exactly makes this $2 combination work the way it does? Let us start with the science that product labels will never show you directly. Lemon juice contains between 5 and 8% citric acid by concentration in fresh squeezed form. Citric acid disrupts the pH environment that mold requires to maintain active colony growth. It penetrates the hyphal structure of fungal organisms, which is the root network that allows mold to anchor into porous surfaces and regrow after surface cleaning. Research published across independent environmental science institutions confirms that citric acid successfully kills a significant range of common mold species in controlled laboratory conditions. That result comes from something you can buy for under $1 at any grocery store. Now add the second component, salt, sodium chloride. Salt works through a mechanism called osmotic pressure. When applied to a mold colony at sufficient concentration, it draws water molecules directly out of the fungal cell structure through the cell membrane. Mold cells require internal water balance to maintain metabolic function. Salt disrupts that balance at the molecular level and the cell collapses. Beyond killing active colonies, salt residue left on a treated surface continues creating a hostile environment for any new spores that attempt to colonize the same area in the weeks that follow. A standard container of table salt costs approximately $1 at any store in the country. The combination of these two ingredients is where the science produces results that no major cleaning brand wants printed clearly on a competitor's label. Citric acid attacks the cellular wall of active mold colonies and breaks down the root anchoring structure underneath the surface. Salt simultaneously removes the moisture that surviving spores need to re-establish themselves on the treated area. Applied together in the correct sequence, they approach the same biological problem from two separate directions at once. And the total material cost sits at approximately $2 for enough solution to treat an entire room. Here is where the numbers become genuinely uncomfortable for the industry. The global mold inhibitor and cleaning product market reached a valuation of $2.2 billion in 2025 according to SNS Insider Market Research published in February of 2026. The corporations holding that market include Clorox, Procter & Gamble, Reckitt Benckiser, SC Johnson, and dozens of additional household name chemical brands. Every one of them sells at least one product targeting mold and mildew removal. Every one of those products contains proprietary synthetic compounds. Every one of them is priced between $8 and $40 per bottle on standard retail shelves. Independent testing on non-porous household surfaces consistently shows that natural acid and salt applications perform comparably to synthetic commercial products on standard residential mold varieties. You cannot patent lemon juice. You cannot build a proprietary citric acid formula that you alone control. You cannot create customer dependency on something that costs $1 and grows on trees across half the planet. The entire business model of the commercial cleaning industry depends on selling branded synthetic chemistry that consumers believe only professional laboratories can produce. Salt and lemon juice represent everything that model cannot absorb. They are cheap. They are universally available. They are completely unpatentable. And they work through mechanisms that have been understood for over a century. That is the combination the industry cannot tolerate. So instead of that truth, you were sold the orange bottle. You were told natural solutions are unreliable. You were told professionals use real chemistry. And it worked. The market hit $2 billion, which confirms exactly how thoroughly it worked on the buying public. Here is what you do with the $2 solution right now. Squeeze fresh lemon juice into a clean spray bottle. Do not dilute it with water at this stage. Spray the affected surface completely and allow it to sit undisturbed for 1 full hour. During that hour, the citric acid is penetrating the mold colony structure and breaking down the hyphal root network that keeps the mold anchored to the surface beneath the visible growth. After 1 hour, scrub the area firmly with a stiff brush until the surface is visibly clean. Rinse with warm water and dry the surface as thoroughly as possible. Dissolve 2 tablespoons of plain table salt into 1 cup of warm water until fully dissolved. Spray the same treated surface with the salt solution. Allow it to dry completely without rinsing. Leave the salt residue on the surface. That residue continues applying osmotic pressure to the environment and makes the surface significantly less hospitable to new spore colonization in the weeks that follow. One treatment, approximately $2 in total materials. No toxic fumes. No chemical residue requiring protective gear. Safe around children and pets on every standard household surface it touches. Mold is a biological problem. It requires moisture, the right pH balance, and an anchor point on a surface to survive. Salt and lemon juice address all 3 conditions simultaneously for a cost that makes the entire commercial mold removal industry economically irrelevant in your home. Your great-grandmother understood this. Her grandmother understood it before her. For over a century, this knowledge moved freely through families at zero cost. Then 5 decades of consistent advertising convinced an entire generation it was not good enough anymore. The knowledge did not disappear because it stopped being effective. It was replaced because effective and inexpensive cannot coexist profitably inside a $2 billion market. That is not conspiracy. That is simply the economics of how large consumer product industries function when a cheap natural solution competes directly with their core revenue product. The science was always there. The solution was always in your kitchen. The only thing that changed was who was allowed to remind you that it existed.